Tensions are high following Russia's annexation of Crimea from Ukraine. Now, as the trial of the decade continues, and by that I mean the Oscar Pistorious trial, new details have emerged concerning the nature of the relationship between the Paralympian and the deceased girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. A police captain has been testifying about the couple's mobile phones. Oscar Pistorius' girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp, sent him various text messages which suggested that they weren't exactly in a rosy relationship, but a rather chaotic one. It's also quite ironic that those messages were sent a couple of weeks leading up to the murder. As always, Mr. Pistorius denies deliberately killing his girlfriend of 3 months, saying he thought she was an intruder.
ZZ2, my lady.
Captain Francois Muller told the court that Steenkamp's long internet connection, which started the night before she was killed, could have been automatic updates by her device. Muller said the internet connection, which started at 8:04 a.m. on February 13, 2013, indicated that there was a communication, but the type of communication was not specified. He also told the High Court that one of Pistorius' phones was used for an internet connection at 1:48 a.m. on February 14th, shortly before he shot Steenkamp dead in his bathroom in Pretoria.
The accused at that stage used his 4949 number, which is indicated as his official cell phone. At that stage, again, he made use of the 3G Silver Lakes MTN MG8 tower, and that call lasted for 1,737 seconds.
And that was the last voice call made on that phone before calls after the incident. Is that correct?
That's correct, my lady. That was the last voice call for the 13th and then prior to the incident.
A police data analyst found 4 messages out of 1,709 between Pistorius and Steenkamp, which could show an argument.
You found 4 relevant to arguing between them.
That's correct.
That's what you were looking at.
That's correct.
It's not that they're standing out. You were looking at messages showing some argument between the two.
That's correct.
Yes. And out of that, more than 1,700, you found 4.
That's correct. Conversations, not because some of them were more than only one message. But yes, conversation.
The Olympic and Paralympic athlete is on trial for the murder of 29-year-old model and law graduate Steenkamp on Valentine's Day 2013. He has pleaded not guilty to murder, saying he was deeply in love with Steenkamp, who he'd been dating for a few months, and that he mistook her for an intruder hiding in a toilet at his luxury Pretoria home. However, text messages between the pair in the weeks leading up to the shooting painted a picture of a volatile, stormy relationship.
18 June, good morning. Off to an exciting interview now. I'll tweet pics later, but when cars are involved, Reeva is a happy person. Bronwyn Kaya at Bronwyn undercarriage K at...
It's in a response, say good luck and have fun and
that's,
so on.
That's correct.
But you've seen the emails. That email maybe summarizes an interest in motor vehicles and so on.
That's correct, my lady.
Yeah.
Muller said he had analyzed thousands of mobile phone messages sent between the couple and found around 90% of them to be normal, often loving interactions.
Before I deal with that, and I think you very fairly conceded that by far, you said 90%, I said might be more of the emails are of a loving nature between them.
The chat communication.
The chat communications, and we've just collated some of them in a bundle. There are many more that you would have seen.
However, another exchange backed up the testimony of an earlier witness who said the 27-year-old athlete fired a pistol under a table in a packed Johannesburg restaurant and then asked his friend to take the blame. Prosecutors are seeking to prove Pistorius tried to kill Steenkamp deliberately by firing 4 rounds from a 9mm pistol through a locked toilet door after a heated argument.
The next witness will deal with the scene of crime. We have taken out of the presentation that would be screened all images depicting the body of the deceased.
Throughout the trial, they have tried to portray him as a gun-obsessed hothead who also fired a handgun through the open sunroof of a car after an argument with a policeman. The state was expected to wrap up its case this week, but defense witnesses waiting in the wings suggest the trial is likely to run into May.
Now, based on suggestions made in that report, I had a chat with the clinical psychologist, Dr. Charles Ume, to understand why exactly it is that women in particular stay in relationships which show signs of violence or abuse, no matter how little.
Most people, when they go into a relationship, they go into it with a lot of optimism. Now, when there are difficulties, they feel it's just a question of time. They will resolve it. But when it becomes violent, you've been a victim once, you've been a victim twice, you've been a victim the third time. Yes, that's when it portends danger. But there are so many reasons why they don't see the danger. Cultural issues, especially in this part of the world. Once a woman is married, it's assumed you stick to your husband. You do have no place again in your father's home.
But Riva wasn't married.
She wasn't. Now, her own is quite different because I don't think they are just in a relationship. And to her, she had her expectations of what that relationship is going to be. And that's why she's willing to take in anything to make it work. Like we were told, there were so many rosy periods they've had together. Now, one or two disagreements will not end the relationship. So I think she was being optimistic that they will be able to fix it and failed to notice the danger signal.
What point does it get to before you know it's time to raise a red flag?
Now, in a relationship, if there are no physical violence, if there are no aggravated intention to harm, if you cannot establish that, oh, this person has had enough of me, I don't think there is room to start suspecting separation. But if it is violence reading, where either the man threatens you with a cutlass, a bottle, with any harmful thing, yeah, you might take it initially. But if he continues, you never can tell when he's going to snap to harm you. Then you know there is a red flag. Okay? For how long will you take that? Probably yes. Or you might tell you, okay, it was just a mistake. A mistake will not happen once. It will not happen twice. It will not happen the third time. And it continues to be what? A mistake. In order to defend his ego, one day, he might decide to what? Act out. And the dead man does not talk. That is it. So when he sees that it's not going that way, you better call it quits. Like I want to talk about, let's look at Nigeria, for example. I do family therapy. I see a lot of women that are being beaten on a daily basis. And they are the same persons that want to defend their husband if you want to take them to court. Now you ask yourself, why? I've been able to ask myself this question severally. And one of the answers I'm beginning to get is simply because of what? The culture, because of the economic support they get from this man, or because of the need to belong. Probably the husband is an eyebrow person, and they want to be seen in that social light. They would rather take all the man is giving them than to leave that marriage.
So finally, what advice do you have for women and men in some cases as regards violent relationships? What do we do so that we don't have another Riva probably in our society?
In religion, they tell you faith. Even when you're dying, you keep having the faith. Okay? But if you go to a professional who will be able to explore the danger you are facing and be able to tell you, okay, if you go this way, these are the possibilities. If you go the other way, these are the possibilities. They look at it from an objective reality and tell you, it's either you save your life or, because in some cases, some of those men have psychological disorder that you can't predict. And under that circumstance, you don't know what they're going to do next.
After the break on Network Africa, find out what this and this have in common. Welcome back. Now, just before the break, I asked you to try to establish a connection between this and this. Were you able to? Well, let's see if you were right. The bustling streets of Nairobi's Kibera slum are not often considered avenues of wealth creation, but creative people like 36-year-old Leonard Ngatia have found that income could come from unlikely resources like this one. Ngatia collects discarded electronic material from repair shops around the slum. On a good day, a hefty collection of scrap pieces from old computers and other electronic devices can earn him up to 4,000 shillings, which is about $45. Here's how he goes about it.
The weight of electronic goods discarded every year worldwide will rise from 48.9 million tons in 2012 to 65.4 million tons in 2017, with most of the growth in developing nations. Some waste from rich countries end up in developing nations where many people work in hazardous conditions for low wages, dismantling it. But waste can be valuable if recycled. Hence, an initiative in Kenya is linking waste collectors to recyclers and exporters and helping the poor make money from waste. Kenya generates thousands of tons of electronic waste every year. The value of that waste, combined with the lack of a sustainable e-waste recycling infrastructure in East Africa, has so far gone largely untapped.
We've had some support from some corporates, including HP, to put collection points in different locations and to work with, we've got the Soweto Youth Group in Kibera, and some other youth and women's groups who are able to establish their own businesses and employ, equip and train collectors to collect the material.
The East African Compliant Recycling Company operates Kenya's first sustainable IT e-waste recycling facility. It receives end-of-life IT from business and public sector customers as well as from informal sector collectors like Ngatia, and assesses the waste for refurbishment or recycling. The company has set up shipping container collection points throughout Kenya that serve as independent small businesses purchasing e-waste from trained individual collectors.
We need to educate the population that this so-called electronic waste is actually a resource. It becomes a resource when it is recycled in the correct way. So I won't call it a challenge, but I'll say the task ahead of us is to educate the population that recycling creates wealth and the waste is itself a resource.
Once a container is filled, its e-waste contents are resold to the main hub where the e-waste is processed and sold back to the technology industry. Each stage of the process is designed to be profitable for participants, from individual collectors to collection point to the hub.
This is the first model of its kind, not just Africa, but anywhere in the world. This model is about connecting the collector to the global market for the materials and providing them with a fair and transparent price, in actual fact, to ensure that they get the maximum value from the waste. It's hoped that this model can be replicated elsewhere in Africa and beyond.
In addition to protecting the environment, the model aims to create thousands of green jobs at the hub and in collection networks, partly by converting existing informal sector e-waste pickers into trained and legitimately compensated e-waste collectors. E-waste grows globally by 40 million metric tons a year, so this initiative should do relatively well.
And that's where we draw the curtains on this episode of Network Africa. Thank you so much for your company. As always, I'd love to hear from you, so feel free to send an SMS to the number on your screen. Till next time, stay proudly African and blessed. I'm Cynthia Are. Bye for now.